Hi there. White smoke has been seen emanating from the top of the high tower in Old Town, signaling that the choice has finally been made. Habemus Daeron. We have our first set spy footage of Daeron Targaryen, Daeron the Daring, Alicent Hightower's youngest son, who will appear on screen for the first time in House of the Dragon Season 3. Moreover, because of this big set footage leak, fan spy channels are now publicly confirming what we've been hearing behind the scenes for a while, that actor Charlie Gordon has been cast as Daeron. Now, Season 2 actually explained this pretty clearly if you were following along, so I'll just go through it quickly, that Daeron is Alicent and King Viserys' youngest child, who, when he was very young, was sent away to be raised as a ward at Old Town with his Hightower cousins. That this is how the noble houses maintain good contacts with each other, is they usually send a younger son as a ward. It's like being sent off to college almost. That, remember, Ned Stark was not the oldest brother. He was sent as a ward to the Eyrie with Jon Arryn. That's how he met Robert Baratheon, who was also a ward there. And yes, it is kind of weird that, as a result, Daeron is this mentioned-only character going on for so long into the show that he's not even mentioned as existing until Season 2, and even then is not appearing on screen until Season 3. But that's sort of the point. That Daeron wasn't raised as part of the core Greens family, as part of Alicent's household. And because he wasn't raised in the royal court, that viper's nest, he actually turned into a kind and honorable young knight. And they had that wonderful scene in episode 2.6 between Alicent and her brother Gwaine, which I think, or at least hope, really spelled this out to a TV-only audience. That it's because he was sent away, that Alicent explaining, I barely know him, we write now and then, but he left when he was young, asks what he's like, now that he's older, he's 16, and when Gwaine says he's courteous, brave, and kind, and the look in Alicent's eyes, great acting, just the look of that mix of relief, but also devastation, knowing that he's a good person because he was sent away and I didn't raise him. But then Gwaine going, maybe it wasn't you specifically, maybe it was just the royal court in general is a bad place. But I really think that worked in service of the show. Instead of treating it as a failure, they turned it into a strength. That the fact that Alicent barely knows her son, playing that for drama. And then, as they do repeatedly mention in Season 2, they mention this like every other episode, they are setting up the Reach subplot. I don't know how much people remember that or watching casually, but they keep saying Daeron is accompanying the land army of Lord Ormond Hightower. Ormond is the head of House Hightower now. Remember, Otto is the younger brother. He is not the head of House Hightower. At the beginning of Season 1, we saw his older brother Hobart, who died during the 20 years worth of time skips and was succeeded by his son Ormond. And because Ormond is Otto's nephew, that makes him Alicent's first cousin and Daeron's first cousin once removed. And they also say in the scene with Gwaine, he has recently turned 16 years old. 6 and 10. Keep in mind, 16 is actually the legal age of adulthood in Westeros. So, I mean, he's still really young, obviously, but he is technically an adult. He's not, a minor or something. He can make his own legal decisions and stuff in terms of what they're doing in the war. So they spell that out very clearly, pointing at a map in the Season 2 premiere, Otto saying, my nephew Ormond is leading the main Hightower army. It's the biggest land army in this war, out of all of them, because the Hightower is disproportionately huge. They rule the second city of Westeros. This is important, and Daeron is with them. And then right near the end of Season 2, they mention in 2 separate council scenes, well, it's Alicent and Orwyle, where he explains, there is war in the Reach. Some of the Reach houses declared for Rhaenyra, like the Beesburys and the Caswells, and are harassing the Hightower army. And then in episode 2.7 at Aemon's council meeting, where they were explaining they can't beat the High Towers, but they can harass them and tie them up in the Reach so their army can't come north to help us. But the good news is that Daeron's dragon Targaryen has just taken to wing. He can ride her to war now, and that adds a new dragon to the green side. A young dragon, but a dragon. And then in that final montage at the end of Season 2, where they show armies advancing across all of Westeros, we get a little preview, very specifically, of here's the main Hightower army marching along the Honeywine River, and here's this blue dragon Targaryen flying overhead, shadowing them. So they were setting that up throughout this. It's funny because in a recent interview thing, Olivia Cook was asked a question about the Beesburys, and Otto went, "Oh, I don't remember us setting that up." And I don't know if she was playing coy or if she didn't remember that they were setting up the Reach subplot throughout Season 2. You just have to pay close attention, guys. It's a dense show. But that's all the summary stuff leading up to this. What new info do we have? Major fan spy channel House the Dragons posted a spy photo shot from a distance, so you can't make out face detail, but you can make out costume detail easily enough. We see a short, young Targaryen prince, platinum blonde hair, it's a Targaryen, short, young, dressed in green, walking alongside Ormond Hightower. We can recognize Ormond not just from his armor, but because they have announced that actor James Norton is in the role. You can kind of tell, even at this resolution, that's James Norton. So this is clearly it is a fuzzy picture of what we're definitely sure is Daeron. This is our first look at Daeron. Now, because I don't want to get a copyright takedown or something from YouTube, I'm not posting the footage here just to be safe rather than sorry. Sometimes they ignore us, sometimes they land on us like a ton of bricks. I hope you understand. So I'm going to link to that video. I'm only showing still shots of it. There's not much more to see. It's short. Check it out. But right after the video was posted, even though it isn't really that big a resolution, we couldn't have really figured out who the actor was. Spy channels use this as an excuse to finally publicly confirm what we were suspecting for months, that actor Charlie Gordon has been cast as Daeron. That name was on our radar for a while. I have known of that name for a while. That Charlie follows a lot of cast members on Instagram. Remember back in Season 1 and even in Season 2 how you're figuring out cast members from Instagram, that look, if you're following 10 other cast members in our show, we think you might have joined. But even then, well, maybe they just joined as, like, Squire number 3 or something. You never know what role they're going to be in exactly, but it seemed important. And I was originally going to post a video about that about 2 or 3 months ago, but I took it down because I realized, it's unconfirmed, and this is far from our first jumping at we call them the Daeron scares, that we've jumping on at least 12 actors in the past 4 years who we thought could be Daeron at one point or another, and then we had to issue retractions, and so I realized we don't have confirmation on this. Let's wait until it actually leaks out and something more of substance to point to and say that it's Charlie Gordon, because we've been wrong so many times before. But yeah, this time it was the person we've been suspecting since spring, that Charlie Gordon was on our radar because of that. That just the hunt we've been doing for this, it has been 4 years. I remember when the very first filming started for the Driftmark episodes, they were at St. Michael's Mount in Cornwall, and this is when we saw a lot of the cast members for the first time. Because they filmed out of order. The first thing they filmed was Lena's funeral. And we're seeing all these young versions of, oh, that must be young Aegon. That must be young Helena. And there's we kept convincing ourselves that some kid in the background must be Daeron, even though he would be a baby or something at that. No, he would be Jace's age, but even then, that was like their stunt double. That wasn't actually the Daeron actor, but we've been jumping at straws for Daeron since summer of 2021. So this long journey we've all been on together in this saga is finally over. But this news, I don't know what internal leak sources they're using to confirm this, but outlets that I have trusted for 4 years, House the Dragons and also Wake the Dragon, are saying we have confirmed behind the scenes through our contacts that yes, Charlie Gordon is Daeron. I don't know the specifics, but they have been reliable for 4 years now, and I see no reason to doubt them. That, and like I said, Charlie was on our radar, following people on Instagram. It's Charlie Gordon. My hope is that HBO, now the cat's out of the bag, HBO confirms this a matter of hours after I post this video, but this is a lock. We know this is it. As for Charlie Gordon himself, relative newcomer, but I said, going into season 3 casting, I said, Daeron is young, so Daeron will be an unknown actor, because there aren't many well-known 16-year-olds or something who can play a 16-year-old. So we'll find out when it comes. It's not like, oh, Ian McKellen has been cast. I mean, he could, because he's a good actor, but it'd be a stretch, but scheduling and everything. So Charlie Gordon is a relative newcomer, has done stage theater work, nothing you've really heard of. The most notable public thing he's done is back in 2022, Netflix did a TV movie of the Matilda musical, and he was a part of the cast, and not one of the leads. I think it was just in the background, but been in a couple of things, relative newcomer. Last thing I want to go over, though, is so we have this news that Charlie Gordon is cast as Daeron, and we have this spy footage of Daeron in the Hightower Army camp. This is great news for us, but it is not news without controversy. Well, controversy to people who think it's controversial. That if you watch the whole video clip, Daeron and Ormond are clearly meeting with Matt Smith as Daemon Targaryen in the Hightower Army camp. This does not happen in the books, and people are already up in arms about it. Apparently they change it so that Daemon personally goes to the Hightower Army camp in the Reach to parley with them. I am nervous about any change. Any change could potentially go wrong. I'm not trying to whitewash that, but it's not an inherently bad idea. That I've said this before in multiple contexts, that in a book, you can have political leaders exchanging written correspondence in a way that simply doesn't work in the visual medium of cinema. So when you're adapting things, you need to turn them into dialogue scenes, and sometimes this works, sometimes it admittedly doesn't, but Season 1 finale, when Otto went to parley at the bridge at Dragonstone, he doesn't go there in the book, he just sends a letter. So, okay, it makes sense to have him come under a banner of parley, of truce, don't shoot the messenger, Daemon, as we've learned. That worked. In principle, it's fine. It's in the execution of it that it matters. I admit I didn't like it when they had Rhaenyra sneak into King's Landing in Season 2 to meet with Alicent. It wasn't the worst idea on paper. I still maintain that the way they did it was needlessly long when they could have simply had Alicent and Rhaenyra do what Otto did. Go send messages to Rhaenyra that I will meet with her under flag of truce if she comes on holy ground to the Great Sept, and then immediately cut to them meeting in editing. Physically, it would be a lot less screen time versus building up all this fake drama of she's sneaking in. That ate up screen time that could have been used on other characters and didn't really add much. Wasn't the worst thing I'd ever seen. It was long. I think if they'd been allowed to do rewrites, that's one of those things you would have deleted for time. But the sneaking in part, but just, let's have a parley like Otto did on the beach or something, or neutral ground like an islet in Blackwater Bay, as opposed to exchanging written letters. I can see the need to do that in cinema. As for this spy footage, where do I leave between, is it like having Otto do it, or is it like the Season 2 meeting? It is a change. I'm not against that in principle. Is it plausible that Daemon could come to the Hightower Army camp to offer them terms? Spoiler warnings, of course. By this point in the war, Rhaenyra is holding Alicent as a prisoner. So if you're asking why the Hightowers don't just kill Daemon, despite being under a flag of truce and parley, which might not mean much to the Freys or the Lannisters at this point in the main books, but most people, if you swear under flag of truce, I will parley with you, respect that. Even pirates respect that. that on top of that, Daemon can say, lay a hand on me, and we'll start sending Alicent to you one piece at a time, one finger at a time. Okay, they have hostages. That's a guarantee of his safe conduct. Makes sense. But from the other side, why isn't Daemon attacking them with Caraxes? I've already seen people asking this, when Caraxes is a much bigger dragon than Tessarion, and there's a whole army there, but they're, a human army versus a dragon. Well, maybe this is their first meeting, and Daemon is offering them generous surrender terms that if you bend the knee right away, all will be forgiven as long as you acknowledge Rhaenyra as queen. Why would he try to kill all of them? That he's winning. He thinks he can win without a fight. He just offer them, we've obviously won. We've taken King's Landing. You might as well surrender. All will be forgiven. Because the Blacks are winning the war by this point. So if this is their first meeting and he assumes they're going to... I'm fine with that. Maybe he's surprised that they don't accept. He's surprised there that I'm just running this through my head. I know, I hate when people, it's honeypotting. It's plausible, and if it doesn't happen this way, I'll be angry when it happens. I'm not going to hate it based on a handful of spy photos out of context, guys. That maybe Daemon comes to parley, says, we have Alicent hostage, promise me safe passage, I want to meet with you guys, you're the biggest green army in the field, with Ormond and with Daeron, who has another dragon, and points out, the Blacks just captured King's Landing, we have Alicent, we have more dragons now, and he presents them with these generous surrender terms. But then, showing how, like Oscar Tully, he's this kid who rises to the occasion, young Daeron responds something like, if it was that easy for you to defeat the largest land army in Westeros, you wouldn't be offering us these generous surrender terms. Even with more dragons than us, we know that we had more men and money to begin with. That's a major factor in the war. The Greens have the advantages both in manpower and in they absconded with the royal treasury. And we know that you are running out of money because we can tell from the ports that the taxes are up. We can tell that at the fish feed, which was the biggest land battle of the war, yeah, the Lannister army got destroyed. You lost half of your men. The Hightower army is still at full strength. You're running low on money, you're running low on men, you have more dragons than us, but they can't be everywhere at once, and you don't want to rule over a kingdom burned to ashes. So if it was that easy for you to beat us, you wouldn't be offering me surrender terms. So no, we're not giving up without a fight. Something like that would actually be a really cool scene. There has to be a point where you go, why isn't Rhaenyra winning? Why hasn't she won the war, period, after taking King's Landing with all these dragons? You need a scene spelling out, we've actually lost our momentum and the Hightower army is still a major threat to us. This could go wrong. I admit that, but there's enough pieces in place there. I think this could work in terms of the need for condensation in exposition. And we were wondering, how are they going to work Daeron in with the main cast members who otherwise never interact with him? That I wonder, there might be flashback scenes. I hope there are. We haven't heard of any of Alicent maybe, seeing Daeron now and again when he was younger, but actually have Daemon treat with him might be a good way to make him feel like he's not in some entirely separate show that's just intercut with this one. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm excited, and I'm going to make more videos after this going over other details about the Reach storyline, not just Daeron, but other castings they've done, other spy photos we have, that they are really rounding out the Reach subplot in a way I didn't think they were going to when Season 2 started. That Season 2 was actually name-dropping a lot of Reach characters and a lot of exposition and setup that they didn't really need to. But more on that in the next video. That we had a lot of filming news since the start of June from all their filming in Wales. This was filmed in southeast England, that they're starting to film in Surrey now, is where they're filming the Hightower Army camp. But I realized so few people are watching now that House of the Dragon content isn't really trending in the middle of the summer because there wasn't a lot of news. There's stuff I would love to pick apart, but my hope was I realized I better sit on this and save the filming reports and then release them out of order after we get a big Daeron announcement or something when more people start watching again. Now that day has come. So throughout the rest of this week, I'm going to be putting out summaries of the other week's worth of filming reports we've been having for Season 3, which are actually pretty encouraging to me. I'm looking forward to Season 3.